Hello, everybody. This is Zach Said It Again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and I'm honored to be on the phone today with nationally renowned comedian William Lee Martin. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Mr. Martin. It's an honor to speak with you.
Well, thanks, Zach. How are things there in Virginia?
Well, very cold at the moment. We are having what you may call bipolar weather. Yesterday, day before yesterday was 65 degrees, and then yesterday and today was about 25. So,
Holy cow!
I'm ready for springtime. I was born with cerebral palsy and bound to a wheelchair, so my old bones do not agree with February. It may be the shortest calendar month of the year, but it is the longest month of the year in every other aspect for me. So I'm anxious for springtime. You live in Texas, is that correct?
I do. It's going to be 80 degrees on Wednesday.
I'm very envious of you. What part of Texas are you from?
Originally just north of Fort Worth, a little place called Blue Mound, Texas. It used to be out in the country. Now you can't tell where one ends and the other one begins.
Right. My father-in-law just passed away last week. He was from Arlington, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Back when Arlington was a small town. But I'm very envious of you and your year-round warm weather. And I'm excited that you are coming to Wytheville, Virginia, which is my hometown. I've lived here all of my almost 41 years. You have sold out places all over the country. So how did we get lucky enough to have you in our small little hamlet here in Wytheville, Virginia?
I tell you, I played it before, and the Millwald is just one of those cool kind of buildings. You know, a lot of the tour that I do is that that 300 to 700 seater across the country, and a lot of these are the old vaudeville theaters, which I absolutely love. As a matter of fact, here in my office in Rome, Texas, I was playing a theater in Shawnee, Oklahoma, an old vaudeville theater, and I'm not only a comedian for 30 years, but I'm also a student of the game forever. And even before I got into stand-up, I was a big nerd, stand-up nerd. But I was a big fan of like Bob Hope and Bing Crosby and all the guys back in the vaudeville age.
Yeah.
And I was playing the theater there in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and Bob Hope is one of my heroes there, and he had played that theater. And then I went across the street to an antique store, and there's a signed picture in there from Bob Hope, and it's here on my desk, and it literally says, "To Bill, my best, Bob Hope."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, that's one of those God moments where, a little God wink at you, and you're like, yeah, you're on the right track. You're exactly what you've been trying to do. So, that's why I love playing the theaters like the Millwald. They got that history to them that a lot of people don't quite understand how cool that is.
Right, exactly. And the Millwald was supposed to be a vaudeville theater. It had its own orchestra pit. It was opened in 1928. It was ready to go. And then a year later, the stock market crashed, and with it went any hope of Millwald being a live production house until almost 100 years later, till it opened up in November of 2022. And I'm thrilled to know you've played there before and you've had good reception, and I'm very glad you're back again. Hopefully I will have an opportunity to see you this time.
It's a fun show. I do like an hour and a half. This year's tour is called Seem Smart at the Time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a pretty uh, devout reader and a writer, and I've been working on this new show for some time, and the whole show really is a lot of fun. So it's more almost like a one man show. With a lot of great stand up in it, and then what I've been getting from audience members this year is, boy, that last 5 minutes. They love the stand up, but my last 5 minutes is all about trying to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life, and it really has had an impact on some folks, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Because what I have been able to see of your work is that, like me, growing up, you always wanted to be a singer. I always wanted to be a singer, but I could not carry a tune in a bucket. As My wife is a singer, she's a wonderful singer. It pours out of her just like air. And my 12-year-old daughter will tell me, she'll say, Daddy, the notes you sing you can't find anywhere on a music sheet. And she's quite right. But you said you were a writer. Have you written books? Do you have any books available for fans to read?
Well, the book that I do have out, believe it or not, it is a children's book
Mm-hmm.
called Dadtastic Weekends. And it really is
Fantastic.
because I'd gone through a divorce and had been, given that weekend, that every other weekend, every Wednesday kind of schedule thing.
Right.
And, I realized, especially with what I do for a living here, those weekends we get moved and everything else to a weekday, and I realized early on that you can still make an impact, a positive impact, if you worry about quality of time versus quantity of time. And so I had that book in me forever, and yeah. But the first book I ever wrote, and you can't find it anywhere because we quit publishing it a long time ago, but it was called Life Under the Neon Moon Now That She's Gone and Took the Dog With Her. And it read like stand-up, but yeah, my whole career started as a writer, writing advertising, and then I left that at the age of 29 when we got sold to another company, and found stand-up comedy, and haven't looked back since.
Well, that's wonderful. I love what you said about when you wanted to be a singer, you wanted to be the first white edition of the Jackson 5. You wanted to be Michael. It was the same way for me. And then he wanted to be you, only I don't think you wear that much makeup. But anyway, I felt the same way. I wanted to be Phil Collins.
Okay.
I wanted to sing like him. I wanted to play drums like him. My parents are very generous. I just lost my father back in October, but they bought me a drum set and took one picture of me in front of the drums, even though I couldn't even properly hold a stick in my hand. I wanted to have drums like Phil, so I know exactly what that is, and I'm very happy that you found a niche in the entertainment world, being very successful, and just I really appreciate the country comedians, because that as much as I would want to be a rock star, what I am is just a pure old southern boy. And when you have, and it seems like that southern people have a connection with one another that you can't connect with anywhere else in the world. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
most of us from the country probably had somebody who told those great stories, and that's really what I've been described as. It's just a storyteller. I will tell you also. You said songwriter. That's how I actually went to college, was playing drums. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I guess you've met a lot of famous people, working with a lot of famous people. You were talking about comedians and Bob Hope and the people of the vaudeville era. A lot of people my age and under wouldn't know what that word vaudeville means, but I'm a big fan of the classic comedians. Lucille Ball is my favorite. I'm obsessed with the people from that era of time. One of the biggest thrills talking about stand-up comedy was in 2013. I had the privilege of going to Knoxville, Tennessee with my wife and seeing the late, great Bob Newhart, who is one I believe to be one of the original stand-up comics. Like, he was one of what I believe to be a founder of stand-up comedy. And his album was the only comedy album to win Album of the Year. And people forget, because he was a big television star, that he was first and foremost a stand-up comic. And he was well over 80 by the time I saw him, and he was just absolutely fantastic. It was just a thrill. And when you were talking about getting the autographed photo from Bob Hope, I am not a believer in coincidences, and it was almost like Bob Hope was giving you that from another life, that God, whoever he signed that for originally, it was supposed to wind up in that antique store, and it was eventually supposed to be yours, whoever's hands it passed through. And in the meantime, that's just a beautiful story.
Yeah, I believe the same thing you believe. I really took it like a real God wink moment. That here I never would have met the guy, but I've been able to tour with some really amazing people in my career as a comic, not as a singer or anything else. But a lot of these singers used to carry comedians to open for them. So I've toured with everybody from George Strait to Brad Placey to Rascal Flatts to probably my favorite was George Jones, and I was his opening act for a couple of years, and so. Yeah, I love the old guys, and I love how show business can go from generation to generation to generation.
Absolutely, and I just think that what you do is tremendous, because in this world, in this day and time, particularly in the age of social media, my daughter is almost 12, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot keep them away from the phones and TikTok and things like this. And there's so much negativity and so many things that you worry about. It's nice to see somebody who gives a routine like yours, and just simple stuff just to make people smile, make people laugh, and that's never needed now anymore. That's never needed any more than it is right now in this world.
I couldn't agree more. That's what the object of my show has become. I say a prayer before I walk out on that stage every night, and it's real simple, Zach. I say, God, I know folks are out there hurting, and let me be an instrument that you designed me to be, to bring some levity into this world, even if it's for a brief moment. And that truly is my wish when I walk out on stage. Because by then, the tickets have sold, so you can't really determine on how many people came to see you. Sometimes it's sold out, and then sometimes it's thin, and you almost can't predict it these days. But what you can predict is what you bring to whomever comes out to the show. But I'll tell you a funny story about it. We've enjoyed a lot of big turnouts. But I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was a place that held about 900. And I think we had 52 in there, right?
No.
I don't know if you ever put 52 people in a 900-seat theater, but it feels like there's 7.
Be like playing to 3, right?
Right. So I was back there and I was saying my prayer like normal. Lord, I know people are hurting, and let me be an instrument of that levity, and let me do what you designed me to do. And I go, but Lord, I can't help but think there has to be more people hurting in Milwaukee than what you sent me.
Right.
I don't know who's doing your advertising, but have you heard of the TikTok, Lord?
Exactly. But if you go out on stage and you reach one person out of that 52 who was, beyond the brink of depression, and you made them smile. I mean, where do you put the worth, and how do you define success? And I'm sure that it can be taken in all kinds of ways, but there may have been that one person that needed reaching, and that was God's plan for you in that small audience of 52. I mean, I'm sure with what you've done, you've reached lives and touched lives of people that you will never even know about. So.
Well, and you're exactly right, and we try to keep that perspective, and the hardest thing sometimes is when you start comparing yourself to other people out there and go, well, that guy is selling out arenas, and here I've got these 52, but that's the 52 that the Lord sent in front of me. So we give it all. We give it our all.
And I think it's also, I found it very humorous that you also wanted to be a preacher, and I found it very funny when you said, I didn't realize that if I had known nowadays that you could combine being a comedian with being a preacher, I would have been richer than Joel Osteen. And I think of these ministers, like these mega church ministers like Jesse Duplantis, who tell as many funny stories as they do religious things, and that definitely is a fit now that wouldn't have been back 30 years ago. So
Amen.
I found that to be a very interesting paradox, because your comedy, although you're making people laugh, you're also giving people a look at life, which is in another sense, maybe in an even more effective sense, what a sermon is supposed to do.
Well, it's funny. I always talk about the fact that I thought I got a calling when I was like 17, and turned out to be a wrong number.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
But I will tell you, I've had people come up to me and go, I know you said you didn't want to be a preacher, but you were preaching. And so anyway, you can reach folks and maybe bring just a little smile to their heart, maybe a little levity, maybe a little perspective that they hadn't thought of, then I do feel like I'm doing something.
And I have to tell you that, speaking of country comedians, there's a man, and I know you know his name. He's from Georgia, and he just passed away a couple of years ago, by the name of James Gregory. And
I did. I knew James, and I was sad about his passing.
And I I had the pleasure of seeing him 4 times, and I interviewed him twice, I think, for this podcast. He may have actually been on I think we did two-parters, so I actually had the honor of having him on 4 different episodes, and we became distant friends, and I'll tell you what, he as funny as he was a minister of God's as well, because he taught me as much about life and what God wants us to do, as much as he made me laugh through his routines. And you have very much that same gift, and it was an honor to know James, to say that I know him, and now I'm honored to say that we have met and had a chance to have a conversation. So, and one more thing I wanted to tell you before we close. About 2 weeks ago, we had another comedian from Virginia. He was a Virginia native, and he played the Millwald about 2 weeks ago. His name was Lucas Bone, and he said, "I saw where William Lee Martin is coming to the Millwald, and if you get a chance to talk to him and go see his show, please do it. He's a wonderful guy, and you'll really enjoy talking to him." So,
well, how nice! Yeah, I've known Lucas distantly for I don't know, probably 15, 20 years, maybe. Well, that's very sweet of him. Yeah. It's a small knit community, show business, and I tell young comics all the time, make sure you get out and talk to folks, because we're all kind of going towards the same job, but it doesn't mean that all of us can't make it. That means all of us. Every time I see somebody explode on the scene and go from one level to the next and then even higher, all I think is, well, that just means that there's a door open somewhere.
Right. And, for me, because you talked about being a writer, and the first thing I ask you is, do you have books? Because I am a self-published author. And I try to, I am out, constantly. It's easier to write a book, and I'm sure you can relate to this being a writer. It is easier to write a book, an entire book, than it is to pound the pavement and promote yourself and say, please buy my book. Because I never break even when I self-publish a book. If I've sold 50 copies, I consider that a hit. If I've sold 100 copies, it's a juggernaut. That's the way it is. And my favorite line is when I'm out there, and I don't do signings anymore for this very reason, because you sit at a table for 2 hours and you ask everybody that comes by with this nice smile on your face, would you like to buy my book? And they look at me and they say, no, we don't read. And I want to say, well, there are free programs in Wytheville County that can help you with that. And I want to put a free adult literacy brochure in every book that I sell. So when they make that comment, but it's when you're any type of artist, it's very difficult to try to make it, and you're so often told, don't even try that, do something else, do something you don't like, because that's not going to make you any money. But if you spend your life making money and you're miserable, what's the point of the money?
Right.
So it's difficult for any artist to make it in the business. So it is important that we root for each other. And I think the reason that you have made it if I may be in my very humble opinion to offer it, is the heart, the heart of who you are, and the heart of what you mean to get across is evident after 2 minutes of your routine. Within 2 minutes of listening to your routine, and I'll just even be completely transparent and tell you that I only got through about 10 minutes of the Cowtown comedy special before you called, but within 2 minutes of you being on that stage, I knew that that was a person I wanted to know, and I felt like that is a person that I would get along well with. And
that's awesome.
And it has been my pleasure to speak with you today, sir.
Mine too, buddy.
And do come back to the Millwald. We need your support and your patronage, and it is a beautiful theater, a beautiful community, and we appreciate all the talent that gives of their time to come to the Millwald. So thank you very much for coming to us this weekend.
My pleasure, bud.
All right, we will talk soon.
All right, take care now.
You too.